Dear SSM. Okay, to cut to the chase, I'm Aussie by birth, but live in Britain. I'm a British Army veteran who served in 2 conflicts. I also taught martial arts, and I'm no dope either. I'm well-read, well-traveled, and educated. Okay, you've got quite the background here, and in spite of all that, you got caught in the web of a spider, and stayed there. I say this not to big note myself, but quite the opposite, to show that no man, no matter how tough or smart he thinks he is immune to haunt the social media platforms. I had no defenses simply because I had no idea people like this woman existed. I had 2 previous long-term relationships with good women, one a Brit and the other a South African. Well, why didn't you stay with them? I never liked Aussie women, as I found them to be crass, over-opinionated, and too masculine. Wanted to be like the boys, a bit too much for my liking. Well, that's what I heard about Aussie women. So being in my 50s and single, I was getting it from both sides. My security buddies and my bike club buddies kept hassling me to try online dating. I was happy myself, fit and healthy, no drinking or drugging, but there was the old desire for warmth and companionship. So he admits already, like, he was happy. He was good to go, but yeah, he kind of missed the warmth and companionship. But going online isn't the best place, let alone with this chick. Never having done the online dating thing, the boys set up a profile for me on a site called Plenty of Fish. More like plenty of a-holes. I got some hits and didn't really reply because I found the medium to be a bit false and off-putting. However, I did have a date with one woman, 40s, Saturday at dinner, stuffing her face and talking ad nauseum about herself. Then she got in the car and pounced on me. I kid you not, the whole thing turned me off and I ghosted her. And that is why I tell all the guys out there in your first date or early on, before you slept with her, keep the dates inexpensive. A coffee date, a drink. Not paying for some meal that she can eat, gobble everything up, and then leave you and never hear from her again. So I pretty much forgot about Plenty of Fish until, let's call her Andrea. I was contacted by an attractive woman calling herself Tattooed Vegan Witch, which at the time I thought was really just a joke or a spoof name. She had a couple pictures up and she appeared pretty attractive. A couple of tasteful nudes that I found out later, one of which her colleague took, a guy of course. Here's the thing, I have tattoos with guys. It used to be a fraternal thing. Military service, bike clubs, etc. But I never liked tattoos on women as I expected to be a walking advertisement for their mental illness or narcissism. I'm with you, man. I don't like tattoos on women. I find it very unattractive. Okay, it's one thing if she has one little one hidden away, but the types have them all over the place, total turnoff. And some women have said to me, in my personal life, well, you have tattoos, so why is it that you have a problem with women? Well, because tattoos are generally a masculine thing, and I don't like masculine women. It's a freaking turnoff. But anyhow, he saw this chick, and he said, Vegan Witch, Tattooed Vegan Witch, and he's attracted to her because she's obviously interesting and good looking. I also now know it's a sign of lack of morality. Go on any PORN site, go to the extreme category, and you will always see these deviant females having lots of tattoos. And the vegan thing should have been a red flag too. I met many, but never a totally sane one. I saw the whole I love animals thing as both virtue signaling and a sort of smoke screen to top you seeing what terrible people they really are. The witch thing I assume was Andrea having a bit of fun with the whole dating thing, how wrong I was. I've known vegans that were mental, and I've known vegans that weren't mental. And the ones that weren't mental, it was not a narcissism thing, and it wasn't virtue signaling. They just had their preferences, and okay. But let me tell you, all the vegans I knew who've been doing it a while, they were so skinny and they looked so malnourished that you'd think a gust of wind could knock them over, you know? So not all the vegans are nuts. It's just, I obviously don't prefer that lifestyle, thank you. So I clicked the like button or whatever it was and sent her a brief message, say hello and my phone number, and within minutes, my phone rang. And from that moment, something changed inside me. I wish I could find the words to describe it, but the whole time I thought it was just an instant profound attraction, but there was more to it. As dramatic as this sounds, I felt I lost control of something very fundamental. I've been in love before, and I knew this was something different. Yeah, obviously she has this dark thing to her, and it turned you on, and she was chasing after you. There was desire, but it was sort of a desire I had no power to resist. Bullshit. You said you've been in 2 foreign conflicts, and you're obviously taught martial arts, and you're a badass dude. You can resist it. Come on here. There was no heart in it. Later on, I found out that just how she did this. Anyway, from the moment, we were inseparable. She lived in Byron Bay, and I was in Sydney, but we were on the phone all day and all night. So you're back in Australia, okay? One conversation went on for 12 hours. I kid you not, my neighborhood complained. 12 hours, a conversation? Don't you have anything else better to do with your time? She was selling up in Byron. I found out later how well she was known up there. And that's a place where every weirdo, deviant, and new age flake in Australia gravitates to. Her mother had recently died and left a huge house to her in Sydney, so she was coming down. And in her beautiful words, she said she wanted a guy when she got there. Andrea hated being alone. Later I found out why. Well, those types that can't be alone, that's not a good sign. She had recently, a week or so previously, broken up with a guy she picked up at a car show. She liked his car, and she told me, did some research on the dude, and he was a real hillbilly type. Bogus, as we say here. But cars were her thing. She had a 70s classic car, a red 73 Charger. She spent thousands putting a big V8, etc. into it. It was a real attention seeker. He says, picture it. Attractive woman, masses of curly hair, heavily tattooed, always dressed provocatively, driving a blood red hot car. I'm sure there are a lot of guys out there who think this is an all big plus, but for me, I could see it was just a way for her to attract the attention of males. Well, it worked for you. She attracted you. All the warning signs, all the alarm bells ticked all the MG towel boxes, and yet I still met up with her when she hit the city. And went exactly as the same as the phone calls. Instant lustful attraction and straight into bed. See? At the end of the day, no matter what his age, what he's been through, still this guy who claims he's a tough guy and he's smart, still fell for this crap. The dick always does all the thinking. And he says, and the witch thing, that was real. When I walked into her bedroom, the first thing I saw was a round table about 3 feet in diameter, sectioned off into segments and a occult sign in each one. Dude, what the hell are you getting into? You're probably more turned on thinking, okay, she's crazy, so she must be great in bed. A freaking altar, a table with occult symbols there. But we're not done. He says a dagger was jammed into the center of the table. When I questioned her about it, she was vague. Something I knew later was always a cover for her lies. She had been part of a coven in Byron, but didn't do it anymore. A table in her room with a big dagger in there. Are you freaking kidding me, man? You've been running for the hills. But you're thinking, no, I'll just bang her once and I'll be the end of it before she casts a spell on you. However, as I got to know her, she slipped up by telling me stories of guys she had hexed over the years. Always dudes who had escaped her web. Really, dude? Hexed? Now, for all the skeptics listening to this, let me just say this. Previous to meeting Andrea, I didn't believe in any of this nonsense. I saw it as just stuff that losers did try and get some meaning into their lives. To me, it was on par with those southern evangelists who handle snakes to drive demons out, or people who think there's some thing with channeling. But now ask me if witches exist and hexing works. I will say most definitely does. What a load of crap. I will say there are women out there that think they're witches and want to try things, but the people they do the hexing to is people they probably put shit in their head, like they're going to do that. Come on. Andrea told me later that before ringing me, she cast a spell using my profile picture to make sure I'd respond to her. Bullshit. And then I understand the initial feeling I had. It was a profound loss of will. Looking back on this, now I realize how ridiculous I sound, but I'm determined to tell the truth no matter how stupid it makes me out to be. No, I think, sir, you're making yourself feel better saying, she cast a spell on me, a hex. Therefore, I was powerless against all her crap. It's easier to blame her for your fuck-ups with being with her than accepting the saying, yeah, I was seduced by her and her whole witch thing and her hot tattooed body and all the sex I thought I was going to get. And the power shit. I was weak and I fell for it. No, we're not buying the whole she had a spell and magic over you. Goodness sake. I'm reading this, guys, because this is a crazy one. This is why I did this over here in this channel. But I can't let you get away with that, sir. Not happening. I also know now that the witch burning wasn't simply the persecution of innocents. It was a way of the community to protect itself from these types. The creation of social media is a godsend for them. A hunting ground for the unique form of female predator. When I told her she was my first internet relationship, she replied that all her relationships had come from the web, and they were a legion, believe you me. Yeah, easy, very susceptible guys. lonely guys, which you said you were looking for the warmth. Andrea had inherited a huge house in the inner city, an old Federation classic worth many millions. Her crazy mom had died, surrounded by junk and totally alone, and had been mad as a hatter. The woman was, according to Andrea, as evil as it came, had prostituted her out at 13, and had allowed other men to escort abuse her. Well, that's awful. That doesn't excuse how Andrea is. It didn't stop her from moving into the house. The supposed chamber and taking the millions her supposedly evil mother had left her always led me to doubt her abuse stories. With Andrea, she lied so much, at such depth, you never knew what was true. And yet you stayed with her. And we're just getting started, guys, and I don't want to hear that she put a spell on you, because obviously you got away from her, and obviously it wasn't because she then took the hex off you, dude. Again, this is why I'm doing this on this channel. So me, the tough and smart guy who I thought I was, moved into her house to help her get sorted. Smack! I guess I should have smacked you earlier, but I guess it's pointless because you were under a spell, which involved turning it into a fortress. The emphasis was always on security. The house itself was stuffed with valuables. Her crazy mom had hidden away cash, jewelry, and gold coins. And I'm talking hundreds of thousands of dollars worth. She bought a safe, but was still paranoid, and theft so made up some of the PVC pipes for her to bury the cash in the garden. Really, burying cash in the garden? I'm sure she could have hired somebody to launder this money. The cash is going to devalue in time, or it can get ruined by the elements here. Gold coins is different. Then I told her not to tell me where. Not because I didn't trust myself, but because I did not trust one of the many ex-lovers turning up. Less a person knows, less they can tell others. But here's the real kicker. For all her wealth, Angie was as tight as a crab's asshole. She had been renting out her house to Byron to a young couple trying to get a start. But when she found out that they had moved a friend in, she wanted more rent and threatened eviction. Imagine having all the wealth but still being prepared to make a young couple homeless for an extra few bucks. I should have seen it then, but I was too stupid. Yeah, you were too stupid and not under a spell. Well, I know a lot of people with money who very skillfully get people to pay for them all the time. It's interesting. I was just a working stiff, but I paid for everything. Well, you were a moron. The expensive vegan restaurants, I bought her diamond rings, pendants, Apple Watch, big TV, and loads of other stuff. She never put her hand in her purse except once. One day she bought me a motorbike, expensive and beautiful, and at the time it blew me away, but now I know why she did it, and it had been repaid. It was a loan she made clear, not a gift. Gifts were not her thing. In her mind, any man who had the privilege of being with someone so sexy and beautiful had to pay for it. Are you telling me there weren't any other women you could have gone out with, dude? Really? And speaking of sex, you'd think any woman that advertised herself so openly as a sex goddess would be phenomenal in bed. But strangely, it was just the opposite. She was as selfish to the extreme and somewhat warped. Of course she was selfish. Everything about her is warped and selfish. Roping in weak men that don't know anybody and think they were, possessed or had a hex on them. I should have seen the signs. In one of our long phone conversations, she asked me what I like to do sexually, and I said I liked a lot of foreplay, something most women would want to hear. Her reply was, that scares the crap out of me. Why didn't I see it? Andrea's idea of foreplay was her appearing naked and expecting you to magically get hard and take her in bed. In 2 years, guess how many times I got BJs? None. Zip, zilch. The whole look at me, the sex queen, was an act. It was just pretense posturing. All this time with her, and all the things you paid for her, and you didn't get one BJ? Smack! Then again, I'd be afraid she'd take that knife out of that table in her room and do a Lorena Bobbitt on you. She had no understanding what a guy needs, but simply demanded that she be given orgasms on a daily basis. No, she knows what a guy needs, she just doesn't care. I kid you not, I was living on Viagra and Cialis, and it was affecting my health as much as the vegan diet I had agreed to maintain, and the Jamesons I was guzzling just to keep sane. So you were taking all these drugs to make her happy. You were now becoming a vegan to make her happy. You were now drinking when before you didn't drink much, and all these other things. Are you nuts? Again, it was the spell. No. You just got so pee-whipped for whatever reason that you got roped in. Yes, there are women out there that are great at trapping guys, but I can only feel sorry for a guy so long until it's like, give me a break, man. I know you know this now, reflecting, but you're telling your story, and I appreciate that. Truthfully, I feel a deep sense of shame writing this. Up to meeting Andrea, I was pretty good at defending my position and expressing my needs. Well, you could have fooled me. But I had no idea what I was up against. Years before in the UK, I'd become interested in certain spiritual movements, and I visited a meeting ran by a well-known teacher. I remember her saying that evil wasn't a force harnessed by Satan or the devil, but simply the human ego that existed in all of us. My wants, my desires, my needs. Well, it's interesting that you were seeing what you described as a spiritual movement teacher and that type of thing, which shows that you were looking for something, which shows me that you were unhappy. And unhappy people are very susceptible to women like Andrea that want to take advantage of you. So it wasn't a spell or a hex or magic. She just was an excellent at reading you. Very perceptive, knew what buttons to push. And it worked. This is the force that is really behind all evil acts, like child ABUSE. My needs must be met and are more important than your suffering. And in the sense, Andrew is truly an evil human being. Well, she's a fucking sociopath, yeah. Her need to dominate and manipulate and gaslight her victims was hardwired in her DNA. I've been in 2 war zones, knocked around with some 1%ers, so you'd think I met some evil bastards. But truly, Andrea is the only genuinely evil person I've ever met. Yeah. But in fairness, like most people who go down this path, she paid a big price for it. She was a tortured soul herself. Oh, boo-hoo. As I got to know her and explore the madness, the sheer craziness that she carried with her could not stay hidden for long. She had been diagnosed with BPD, the shocker, something that made her totally unstable emotionally. She'd rant and rave and curse and threaten me, and I would follow her around the house with a bong begging her to use it. Smack! Don't beg women, and you're still putting up with her? Weed was a lifesaver, and by that means, my life, not hers. One puff, and 5 minutes later, she'd come down to be the warm and loving and say, I'm sorry I got so crazy. True, there were good times. We had a lot of fun together. Yeah, but when things weren't good, they were crazy. We laughed a lot, we danced, and just act like big kids a lot of the time. And to be fair, she did try sometimes to be normal and loving. She went out of her way to comfort me at times when the army stuff came up, which added to my confusion. So she was hot and cold with you. She knew what she was doing. She was toying with your emotions. And again, with also her borderline personality disorder jumping in. I realize now this was just play acting on her part, but the sheer instability of her moods always had me waiting for the inevitable emotional disaster. And that's on you. She was also a self-harmer. Listen to this. When we did fight, when I finally spat the dummy and told her a bunch of home truths or exposed her lies, she locked herself in the bathroom, heated up a wire coat hanger, and put 5 burn welts in her wrist. Perfectly spaced, even like a I Ching symbol. Permanent scars that reminded her, and she said how mean I was to her. Go figure. Really, the self-harm, the burning herself to show you did that to her. Guys, again, this is why I'm doing this in this channel. There are, guess what, lots of wacko women out there. Somebody may be saying this is bullshit SSM, but guys, there are wacko women out there, and they prey on weak guys. And this guy was a weak guy. He wasn't under a spell. You can say he was under a spell, but not like an actual like witchcraft spell. She knew what buttons to push. She knew, had his number. Obviously, she's a sociopath and a narcissist and a wacko, but she is smart enough to be able to read people, know what they need, and exploit it. The second she started pulling bullshit, he didn't leave, and she knew she had him. But anyhow, guys, I'm wrapping up part 1 here. Now, maybe some of you may be inclined to say, fuck this, I'm not coming back. You want to hear part 2. You want to hear more of how the crazy really comes out here, and eventually what he does to get rid of her. And I'm not talking about suddenly, getting a exorcism or something like that. But this is definitely an entertaining one and why I'm doing over here. So come back in 2 hours, and you'll hear more about Andrea and more of her craziness and what this guy does and what he's learned. Because we can all learn from these type of things.